Taiwan is bursting with heaps of fun places to explore. Join me, Amber Hatfield, as I hit up travel hotspots, soak up some culture, and hunt down hidden gems. Let's go! Hello and welcome back to Let's Go. I'm your host, Amber Hatfield, and today we are diving into some adventure, some travel, outdoor sports. We're exploring something that gained a lot of popularity worldwide, and it's trail running. Now, if you're thinking, isn't that just running in the mountains? Well, yes, it is, but it's so much more as well. Trail running really takes you off the beaten path. You can go through forests, mountains, across rivers, and some other really breathtaking landscapes that there are across the world. In this episode, we're going to be looking at how trail running kind of began and how it differs from road running, and why Taiwan is a really great destination for trail running. And to help me understand more about trail running, I'm joined today by someone who's been a major part of this sport's growth across Asia, Michael Maddess. He's the director of Action Asia Events, which organizes trail runs and trail races all across Asia. I hope you enjoy this episode and learn something new and maybe decide that you want to take up a new sport. So according to information that I'm able to find online, it seems like trail running's origins trace back to 1040 in Scotland, where King Malcolm Canmore organised hill races in Braemar to select royal messengers. And the sport evolved throughout the 19th century with the emergence of fell running in the UK, characterised by races over rugged terrains. Notable events included the 1824 Whitmore Moor Race and the 1895 Ben Nevis Race, where runners go up the highest peak in Scotland with about 16 kilometres and 1,500 metres of altitude. In the early 21st century, trail running gained unprecedented popularity, propelled by remarkable performances from athletes like Matt Carpenter, Anton Krupika, and Kilian Jornet, who inspired a new generation to embrace ultra-distance challenges. But that's enough about fell running and trail running's history in general. I had the pleasure of speaking with Michael Maddess from Action Asia Events. He told me about how Action Asia Events got started and what events they're running across Asia.
Action Asia Events was started in 98, basically doing a couple adventure races in Hong Kong, the Philippines, and looked at increasing those events around 2000 and 2001 with Taiwan, which was a regular event going through, gotta think back then, it's been 300 events for me, so forgive me for not remembering everything, but we did Fuxing, and then we did Sun Moon Lake, and I think the following year, and then Fulong, Longdong on the coastline. We partnered with National Geographic Television, ESPN Star Sports. We worked with Taiwan Tourism Board, and it was pretty epic. You're talking about back then a helicopter with a television film crew removing the door, filming Action Asia participants, trail running, mountain biking, ocean kayaking, abseiling off the cliffs of Longdong, jumping in the ocean and swimming between rocks, Tyrolean traverses, zip lines. It was pretty full on. And we started to increase those type of adventure races in the early 2000s to Singapore, to Malaysia, Thailand. And, you know, for a lot of people, they enjoyed the team building events that had, at that time, 3 participants per team. Then some changes were made to reduce the teams to teams of 2. And that was just like living in Taipei, living in Hong Kong, living in Singapore. Rent started increasing. People's apartment sizes started getting smaller. Whether the husband, the wife, the girlfriend, boyfriend, you know, it was like, hey, your mountain bike is taking up too much space. Get rid of it. So trail running started to take off due to its simplicity of just owning a pair of running shoes and some shorts, and you could run out. So next thing you know, we're doing events all over Asia. We're doing multi-day events in Vietnam, in Laos, in Mongolia, in Kazakhstan, in Nepal, together with one-day trail running events in Taipei, in the Malkong area, starting and finishing at the Jinangong Temple. And we started with a 9-kilometer and eventually added the 26-kilometer category. And we did those annually from 2010 right up to the pandemic. And we only brought back last year the 50-kilometer up in Shumen Reservoir, which also was an annual in Taoyuan County.
So, how does trail running compare to traditional road running then? Well, for starters, it's pretty unpredictable. On the road, you know what to expect. You're going to have a flat, measured distance, smooth pavement, or a steady pacing. On trails, it seems like it's a whole different game. And the courses can vary in distance too. Like Michael said, some races might even be 50 kilometers. But depending on the terrain, they could be more or less. And your speed changes constantly because you're running uphill, downhill, through mud, over rocks. And Michael explained to me why distances in trail running can be a little bit flexible.
Well, I guess your typical road running event is going to be 10-kilometer, 21-kilometer, 42-kilometer, the official distances that they have to go measure on a road versus trail. There really is no exact distance. A race may call itself a 50-kilometer, but in fact, it could be 46, 48, 51, 52. It's more of a generic number just because, every trail is different. Over the last 10 plus years, I've been measuring different trail races all over Asia, including Taiwan, with a Sunto watch, a Polar watch, a Garmin watch, and everyone is different. And the GPS watches that you use to measure the distances are calibrated to satellites and picking up a signal, maybe one every 10 seconds, one every 20 seconds, once a minute. So, everybody's GPS watches, even with you and your friends doing a short 10-kilometer race, are all going to be different.
So, what can you expect with trail running?
Trail running in general tends to be running and hiking combined into the trails. There is sky running, which is more of an extreme version of trail running, which tends to run ideally to the peaks and come back down, versus trail running tends to go around mountains. But around Taipei, there's a lot of peaks near this Maokong event, Ergershan, Huashan, Monkey Mountain, that you can actually reach the very top of the summit with not too much elevation. You're talking like 300 plus meters, 400 meters max, so it's very attainable to many people. However, you do need a base of training. And a lot of participants do their training running on the river banks of Taipei, including the famous New Zealander who was a teacher in Taiwan many years, Ruth Croft, who was the winner of the Action Asia event for many years. And I kept pushing Ruth to consider going pro. And she did eventually, on her summer break of teaching in Taipei, go to Europe. And she started to get some podium finishes, and fast forward, I'm guessing like 6 years now, 7 years, she now is one of the top female runners in the world. But that all came from a lot of her background from running in Taipei. So, you can run along a riverbank, build that cardio base, and still hike, run up into the trails. You don't have to only train in the mountain to complete these. And you get such a cross of participants, from people, the millennials who are all glued to Facebook, to the older ones, or maybe it's the other way around now, I should say, the younger ones on the TikTok and the older ones on Facebook, and Instagram and LinkedIn. But a lot of people, I would say the biggest percentage, are going to hike and run. You're going to have maybe 10, 20% that are going to be in the elite status, that are going to run probably more than 90% of the whole course, including all the uphill stairs, which is pretty phenomenal when you see around Taipei some of the sizes of those staircases. And then you've got people, let's say the last 20, 30% of the people they're going to hike 100% of the course. Intention running, they're just out there as a health, wellness, fitness goal to perhaps live a more healthier lifestyle, cut down on their smoking, reduce some weight around the waist, that feel good factor. And that's exploding worldwide right now.
So, how would someone go about training for their first trail running marathon as opposed to a road marathon?
In Hong Kong per se, there's a big trend now in people joining running clubs. And if I go back over the last 30 plus years, a lot of people tended to do the training themselves, or they would go to a gym, jump on the exercise bike, lift some weights, try to build some muscle. And I'm not knocking that. A lot of people still believe in that. In a way, I'm a bit biased because I was very competitive when I was younger, left Canada to compete in the Ironman triathlon races in different countries. I had quite a few podium finishes. When I got into trail running in Hong Kong, I won and placed on the podium several times in ultra marathons, and I took my training quite seriously. But I am very realistic in the fact that a lot of my friends are working extremely long hours in all the major cities, Singapore, Taipei, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Bangkok. They don't have time to train. They're lucky if they get out twice a week. And so for those people, I recommend trying to do maybe one longer, one shorter session. There's no coincidence why people that run or do the same exercise over and over and over tend to be in a higher percentage of people that get injuries compared to people that do cross training. So there's no coincidence why you look at something like triathletes tend to have a lower amount of injuries compared to runners, because a lot of runners tend to think, oh, if I run every single day, I'm going to be a better runner. But what happens is you end up hammering that same ankle, that same knee joint over and over. Your ITB your ITB, your glutes and your backside tighten up. Your knee starts getting twisted to the side. And next thing you know, you got a knee injury. Versus if you were to do a bit of cross training, maybe swimming once a week, doing some yoga or Pilates, do some stretching, which is great for the muscles, especially the ITB, and then do your running session or hiking session. And even, throwing in a bike session if you have a bike or go to a gym exercise, spin bike, and that's going to reduce the chance of injury, or if you are just an avid runner, I would recommend trying to throw more stretching in your routine. And that could be yourself or jumping into a yoga session, a few times a week if you have the luxury. I just cannot underestimate the importance of stretching. Whenever I do it, I seem to have less injuries. And when I don't do it, I always seem to injure myself, So I think in general, you got to get out at least 2 times a week, 3 times a week, log the hours on the legs. So don't expect to do a half marathon of trail running or even road running and only go out once a week for a short session. You're gonna feel the pain and potentially injure yourself. It's not a wise idea. In Taipei, a lot of people, they don't have the convenience to the mountains. Maybe they can't get up into the park, national parks. So they tend to run along the river bank. It's very convenient early in the morning. Not many people, except a lot of runners. People do find that motivating, and building the cardio is important, because whether you're going to go up a hill in a mountain, even with not too much experience, having that cardio is going to give you the stamina of hiking those stairs, if there is stairs, or an undulating, rolling, hilly course. The Malcolm course has a lot of short little hills. They're not terribly big, but they do kind of hit you one after another. So it's almost like a mental game where you're going to be, probably later in the race, probably swearing to yourself like, oh my God, not again, like another little one, another one, So it's like somebody kind of slowly beating you up, but slowly punching you, So you have time to prepare and psych yourself up for each one. But of course, getting out and doing a regular hike once a week will pay dividends, definitely, because you're going to immediately get used to going down some stone stairs, going up some stairs that are made out of recycled tires, which I see quite a bit around Taipei. By the way, big plus to Taiwan, out of all the Asian countries who do events, definitely number one in terms of recycling. I always love how the Taiwanese take the recycling so serious, and even, using recycled car tires or truck tires for stairs, and I think just generally on the undulating sections, it gets you used to also your footwear, and you're going to probably realize right away, oh, my road running shoes that tend to have a very thin, soft sole are not quite cutting it in the trails where maybe you're going to kick a rock or bang your toe against a tree root. And so that's where trail shoes that tend to be more reinforced, slightly heavier, not too heavy, but just a thicker sole, thicker outer with a toe protection on many of the shoes. They're designed for the outdoors. And a lot of trail runners will even use those in their road training. For a lot of people, they won't notice too much of a difference in the weight, but they're just designed with better grip so that if you're up in Malkong going down a couple of the trails that are dirt and it happens to be raining, you've got that extra reinforced grip that's going to stop you from sliding. But then that's why you need to get out there and ideally press if you have an opportunity, because that's where you've got to use your core stomach muscles to reinforce and balance yourself more forward so that you don't slip on your butt, and fall backwards, So it's a bit like maybe skiing. For those that have had the luxury to go hit a snow mountain will understand when you're skiing, your body weight has to be forward, your knee, your elbow, your shoulder should all be kind of center lined so that the gravity is slightly forward. So it's almost like you're falling forward in a way. And that's how you should be attacking a downhill if you have enough experience. If you go downhill and you're leaning backwards, you're going to put the weight on your heel and you're going to slide out and fall and bang your head on your back. And so all the much more reason to join a hiking club, join a running club. Like I said, like not just in Hong Kong, and I'm sure in Taiwan, there's many, many running clubs popping up, but they're getting more and more popular all over Asia now. All the major cities now, it's, joining a running club is like the new nightclub for dating. The social experience has just exploded worldwide.
That's all we've got time for today's episode of Let's Go. And we learned about trail running's history, what makes it a bit different from road running, and why Taiwan is a great place to experience it. But here's the thing. Talking about trail running and actually doing it is another thing. So that's why I decided to sign up for my first ever trail race. In next week's episode, you'll hear from Michael Maddess again, and also from myself as I share my thoughts of my first ever trail run in the mountains of Malkong. If you're feeling inspired and want to try a race for yourself, you can check out actionasiaevents.com for upcoming races in Taiwan and across Asia. And I will see you in next week's episode. Bye for now.